We're on the 2017 ordinary level section B2. It is an axonometric projection question. So we've got to draw the axonometric projection of a digital camera. Part A of the question, we just have to draw on our equilateral triangle and our axonometric axis. It's base 100 millimeters. That's very important. There'll be marks going for that. So 100 millimeter base, 60 degrees and 60 degrees to draw our triangle. And then we set up our axis as we've done in the last few questions. We have to draw the elevation and plan positioned as shown. So the elevation, 60 mil high, 100 mil wide. That's pretty straightforward. We step in 40 to get the center of the lens, down 30 to get the center, and it's a radius 24 lens. That's as much as I've done on the setup. I'm going to start setting up the plan. The plan is 25 wide for the body, or deep for the body, and 30 deep for the lens. When I come along, I've got my triangle set up. We projected out at 30 degrees from each of the corners of the triangle, and then we had our 60 degree angle here. We drew our semicircle then to get the point for our axis. So we have our two lines drawn. The elevation was 100 millimeters wide, stepped up 60 mil high, and you always take your lines parallel to the bottom and the side of the axis. Stepped in 40, up 30, and I've drawn in my radius. Now, good practice is to copy my measurements from elevation. So in other words, instead of just re-measuring it, I'm going to copy my width here down to plan. So that's good practice. So just in case I've made a mistake on this, didn't make it the right width, I've copied the same width down. So my width for the body of the camera in plan is here, and then I go and draw it in. Plan is straightforward to draw because I can use the 45 degree set square. Again, the body was 25 deep. Measure out my 25, and I can draw on the body. So that is the body of the camera drawn in. Now, I'm going to take my measurements from elevation again. So, as we've done before, I'm going to take just a line across here, just to make it accurate. What it means now, instead of messing around, I can come along and draw in the left hand side. So take my width, project it to plan, and take my width and bring that to plan. So that is the width of the lens. I've basically transferred the width of the lens down. Again, 45 degree set square to draw that. And we said it's 30 out. So that is the elevation and plan complete. Now, as always, I've got my axis here. The axis running up the way is on the left hand side of the drawing. I'm going to highlight that. So my axis is on the left hand side in the elevation, meaning I'm going to take not this one, I'm going to take the left hand axis. So because it's on the left in elevation, I'm going to highlight the one on the left in plan. And I'm going to use that because I'm going to label some points. The 4 points in the front, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Those 4 points are on the front of the elevation. I can see 1 and 2 are hitting the green line, which means that 1 and 2 are here. 1 and 2. Remember, this is the front of the camera, this is the back of the camera, so I'm not labeling any points back here. I have 1 and 2. 3 and 4 are on the opposite side, so when I come down here to the opposite side, 3 and 4 are there. That's going to allow me to start drawing my main body. So now I can come along, bring up points 1 and 2 are going to be on that line. 3 and 4 are going to be on this line. 1 and 2 are on this line. So when I take 1 back in, here's 1. When I take 2 back in, and again it's always at 30 degrees from the elevation, there's 2. 3 and 4 are on this line. 3 comes back in, and 4 comes back in. Now you don't just join the dots here. You need to use your set square. This line should be at 30 degrees because in real life these lines are horizontal, so in the real life camera. So when I come along, I should be able to join this, and I make it join. I'll actually cheat a little bit and move the dots if I have to. They're pretty good. So now what I've got is the front surface of the camera. At that stage, I can come and bring up the back surfaces. I've already got my construction lines. I'll darken them a little bit so you can see them. These are going in 30 degrees this direction. And they're basically the sides of the camera already done for me. I've got my back corner of the camera here. I can bring that up. And now I can draw it in. There's the back surface of the camera. And my back corner here, I can bring that up. And that gives me the back surface of the camera. And again, that back surface should be able to be drawn at 30 degrees. And it's a little bit off there, so what I'm going to do is cheat a little bit. I'm going to move this point out slightly and make it work. And the idea of not just joining the dots is so that you get a very neat looking drawing. My drawing there looks perfect. If I were joining the dots, some bits of it might look a bit out of shape. I'm not going to darken this line because the lens is going to cover that later on. So I've got the main body drawn in. That's part A, B and C done. So you've 3/4 of the question finished. The tricky bit now, which is worth about 16 marks, it's a good few marks, it's worth about 1/3 of the question, is my lens. I have to convert the lens down. So basically I have to get the lens and draw it down here. It's a circle, we always have to divide it up. So dividing the lens, again I'm only going to use 8 points because 12 is just too many when we're doing these axonometric projection questions. So all I'm going to do, again, you divide off the bottom line. So I've got a set square on the bottom line. To divide it up into 8, I'm going to use my 45 degrees set square. And then 45 the other direction. I'll have to move that down just so it's going to hit the camera uneven. So I've got my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. And I'll go and label them straight away. It doesn't matter what I label them. I might label them A, B, C and D. So I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G and H. And it doesn't matter how you label them. Now again, I need to transfer the heights down, or the widths down. I have to do the same thing as I did here. I drew a line across. So all I'm going to do again, parallel to the bottom, I'm going to take construction lines across E to D. Those two are across, those across, and there. What that's going to allow me to do is accurately measure the distance to A, distance to B, distance to C, distance to D, and so on. So when I come along to do it, I want to transfer the markings down to here. Now, I'm going to start on the front of the camera. So I'm just going to put the same construction line. So these construction lines that I've drawn, this big long one here, here's my construction line. I'm taking the front surface of the lens, here's the front surface of the lens. So same thing as I did earlier on in the question. Point A, and I'm going to do the two together. We've done this before. Point A and you'll see point E are the same distance. So when I come down, I take my distance again from the green line over, green line over. So that is where A and E is. When I come along then, point B, here's point B, and again point B and point D are the same distance. So when I come down, that is where B and D are. C is on its own, and C, you'll notice, should be at least the far side. So here is C. Point E, I've already got. Point F, and you'll see H, F and H are the same distance. So when I come down, I've got F and H, and point G should be the last one. Here's my distance for G, and again that should be the corner of the lens, and it is G. So I've got points A, B, C, D, E, F, G and H are all here. I found the points, and that's the tricky part, getting them in the elevation and into the plan. Now I can find the points in the axonometric view. So I'll take them up and I'll do them one at a time to begin with, and then we might speed it up a little bit after that. So I'll take point A up. A comes up and A comes back in. So A from elevation comes in. That gives me A. B comes up and B comes back in. So there's B. I'll do C. And C comes back in. Now, to speed it up, what I can do is bring all the points up in one big lump. So I've taken my construction lines for all the points up, and I'll bring the construction lines for all the points back into the drawing. And so I'm taking every single point back in. I'm not worried about finding the points yet. I'll do that in a minute. What I end up with is a big jumble of lines here, so it's a bit hard to make out. That is where the set square comes in handy. So I've got points A, B and C found. I'm going to come back down to my plan. I'm going to put my set square. I want to bring point D up. Here's point D. I'm going to leave the set square there. With the pencil, I'll follow D back in. And there's point D. E, same thing. Put the set square at E from the plan. And I'm going to follow E in. E comes down here. When it hits the set square, it's in the right place. F, same thing. I'll follow the line back down. There's F. And G. And then the same thing, take G down. A, B, C, D, E, F and G. I'll draw that in now freehand. Okay, so I've drawn the curve in. It's a little bit rough because I didn't take it off the board. I don't want to be taking it off and putting it back on. You'll be able to either spin the board or take the sheet off. Now, I have to find the set of points that are in behind. It's a lot of work to go and find another 8 points back in here. I don't actually need to do that. What I can do is cheat a little bit. I know that the lens is 30 millimeters deep. So that's the depth of the lens. It was 30 mil. What I can do is take back all my points. So I've got A here, and point A comes back in to hit. Okay, so I've drawn in the curve. It's a little bit rough because I didn't take the sheet off. You'll be able to spin your board or take the sheet off. I couldn't do that because I'd have to put it back on underneath the camera again. Now, I have to go and find the other set of points around about here. And that's going to be a lot of work because I've got 8 points to find again. The 8 points would belong here. I'm going to cheat slightly. What I'm going to do is just find one of the points. So, point A is the one I'm going to find. I'm going to take it back here. So what we would have is point A at the front and A at the back. And if I go back to the actual question, we'll say itself, that means a point on the front of the lens and then the same point in at the back of the lens there. So it's the same idea. I'm going to find that point and then I can copy all of those. So if I come up, I'll take A up and again follow A back in, and it gives me point A here. So that gives me the distance or the length for the lens. What I can do now is I can come along and just copy that around. So here's my distance on the compass. That's the length of the lens. I can take the length from B. That's where B is at the back. C. D. And I'll exaggerate it slightly to show I'm using the compass to find the points. There's D. E is hidden in behind. F is hidden in behind. G is hidden in behind. So I won't see any of those points. So the only bit of the curve that I'll actually see is those 4 points shown there. What I need to do then is just cut the curve off. So the curve cuts off here. So it kind of fades in. Same on top. Now you'll see on top I have to come out slightly. So I come back here and I'm just going to fade the curve into nothing. and that gives me the completed curve. So it just means that I don't have to go finding a big load of points. Now I can finish out the drawing. And that is the question complete. See how you get on with that.